Hello friends and strangers on the internet. So it's a wonderful day today. Summer has finally come to Norway. Many weeks of rain, and then suddenly we have a week of wonderful weather and all the leaves just explode. And it's so wonderful to see, and it's getting a little bit warmer now. People are cutting the grass, doing some work on the house, that kind of thing. And so I've decided to walk down to my studio today. My new studio, which I've only had for about 3 months now, 2 or 3 months. A friend of mine who owns like an office building, a new office building, and it's been re-renovated. And they offered me a room there at a price so low that I couldn't refuse really, because it was included with electricity and everything. And there was 3 spaces they offered me, and 2 of them I got when I walked in. I just got it, no, this is not for me. You know, you've got to feel, it's hard to explain, but you've got to feel like an energy there. Can I work here? And then the 3rd one, as soon as I walked in, I thought, yeah, there's something here. And so he said, I tell you what, Arthur, why don't you come here whenever you want and just sit here? So that's what I did. Every now and again I went in, I just sat there, I took my laptop with me, that kind of thing. And then I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. So they gave me like a month free. Started, painting there, and I liked it there. I also like the fact that, they want me there. The people who own the building, one of them being my friend, want me there. So it's a nice feeling. And the idea behind it, I'm going to do a video about it. I'm not going to talk about it today, but I think it's really important for the future of artists. So I'm going to do another video on this, because I think in the future it could really help struggling artists, this concept that's coming in Norway. It's really excellent. So I'm walking down today to it's about a 15-minute walk down to my studio. So I thought I'd do a kind of a walk and talk, and today it's on a subject which kind of came to me last night, because a song that I haven't heard for quite a while now came on my YouTube feed, and I thought, oh, that's the song which is always, for me, it captures what art is about. So I want to talk about that today, because there's always discussions on what is art, what isn't art, and it's really like almost impossible to define it and put it into words, because as soon as you say something isn't art, then you've got to say, well, what is it then? And no one can really do that. But it's a bit like saying, what is consciousness? Nobody really knows. And of course, that's one of the reasons why art is so important, is because of the fact that you can't define it like consciousness. And I think it's actually linked to consciousness itself, and that's another video again. But today, I've got a kind of a nice, simple explanation from my perspective what art is and what drives me on my paintings. So I'll start with telling the story behind it. And it goes back to 1991, when I was a struggling art student. And I shared a room in a house with 2 other students who were they were good friends. And this room in this house was quite a big room, because it could fit 3 beds in there. So there was space enough for the 3 of us to share the room, And talking about sharing, I'll just show you the view I've got here. So yeah, anyway, this room that we shared, you know, it was great. It was actually one of the best times of my life, really. You know, like really, I mean, we struggled for money, you know, we really did. And that's the reason why we shared, the three of us shared a room, so we could share the rent. And, you know, we'd listen to music, we'd watch movies on video. Yeah, it was video cassette them days, video player. And each of us would bring videos from home to watch, you know, films and stuff. And often we would talk long into the night. And sometimes we would invite other students over, you know, to have some beers and just talk and listen to music, that kind of thing. Yeah, it was just great. It was a really great period in my life. You know, when you're at university, you have such freedom that you never ever get again in life, really. So you know, anybody who's at university, enjoy it, because you'll never have that freedom again. So anyway, one such time when we invited some other students over, one brought up a question saying what was our kind of favourite song of all time. And we went round the room and everybody gave their version, and many of us agreed, some didn't agree and said it was a great song. And when it came to my turn, I mentioned the song by Prince called Girlfriend, which is the one that I listened to last night on YouTube. And it's a specific version of the song. It's not the one on his CD album. It's a live version he did of the song. Anyway, all the friends all the guys in the room had said that they'd never heard the song. Not one of them had heard it. And this surprised me. In one sense it surprised me, in another sense it didn't, because it actually came out, as I remember, in 1987. And I myself didn't get to hear the song until like 1990. And that's because, you know, although I liked some of Prince's songs, I wasn't really a fan of him. And I actually heard it by accident because I had MTV on in the background. And it was this particular version, he'd done a live version. And to this day, I think it's actually the best version he's done. He sang it a few times live, but this for me is just a breathtaking performance. And I just fell in love with the song, I really did. I was like totally blown away by it. And so, you know, all my friends were saying, never heard of it, Arthur. So anyway, I just happened to have a copy of that performance on video. I'd brought it with me because I like to watch it sometimes. Sometimes I was in the room on my own and I'd watch it. And I put it on, so they all listened to it. And I thought like there would be like a positive reaction, but there wasn't. They all kind of looked at me with these blank faces. And they said to me, you know, yeah, it's a good song, Arthur, you know, it's a nice tune and everything, but I don't see I don't get it, you know, I don't see why, you know, you make such a big thing of it. You know, because I said, for me, it was a masterpiece. And they just couldn't see it. And I said to them, you know, listen guys, I said, let me explain. I said, you think about the normal pop songs, you know, from the 70s and 80s, from my period of life at that time. That's all, you know, it's always like the guy chases the girl, the guy gets the girl, how pretty is the girl, the guy loses the girl. You know, it's kind of like a very simple perspective on boyfriend and girlfriend. But here, I said, Prince offers us a perspective on the boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend perspective that's entirely new, that I'd never heard before. And in fact, I think the song is actually way ahead of its time. It's totally original, and you just don't hear that very often, you know. And so I was explaining that if you think about what Prince is actually saying in the song, you know, he's totally in love with this girl, his girlfriend. And at some point in their relationship, he sees that when she's with her girlfriends, you see, when he sees his girlfriend with her girlfriends, and he sees that she's different with them than she is with him. Her relationship with her girlfriends, the friends of her girls, is very different than the relationship he has with her from a male and a female, I guess. And you know, like he realizes, you know, because he's so in love with her, he wants to know every aspect of who she is. You know, it's not just like he's wants to know her physically. Of course, he's attracted to her, but he wants to know her mind and her soul. He wants to get inside her soul, you know. So he wants to know every aspect of her. But when he sees her with her girlfriends, he sees that she's so different, and then he realizes that he can never ever experience that side of her. I just have to show this view, guys, just a minute. Just see this view. You can see it really nice from this angle. You see just how beautiful it is. And there's the famous hotel in the background. And the ferries crossing over there. You see the two ferries are crossing, and it's probably too far away for you to see it, but they cross every hour. They cross each other, and apparently the captains wave to each other as they cross. So anyway, he sees that, you know, he realizes that he can't ever experience this side of her personality, how she is with her girlfriends. And he really wishes he could do that. And the thing about this song for me that's so brilliant is that he captures this on two different levels. There's like a surface level and a deeper level. And I'll give you an example. So one of the words of the song, he says, if I was your girlfriend, would you let me dress you before we go out? Not that you're helpless, it's just that sometimes those are the things that being in love is about. And I really love that, because he captures that this simplicity of like deciding what to wear with the friends is actually a very important part of a relationship and a friendship, because you're sharing things, aren't you, you know, and it's just a surface level really. And you know, this choosing of clothes, it's so sweet, you know, it's such a sweet thing. But he's right, you know, it is those small things does capture a little bit of what love is about, you know, and then of course then later in the song he goes a bit deeper and he says, if somebody hurt you, would you run to me, even if that somebody was me, you know? And for me, that single line is what makes the song a masterpiece. Because you see what Prince does here, he creates the paradox that if he was, because you think of it like this: when we get hurt by someone, you know, they what do? We go to our best friends, don't we? You know, we go to our best friends and we tell them, we share, you know, this person did this to me, it really hurt me. And they kind of lift us, don't they? They support us. And what he's creating, this paradox of that he's a best friend as a girlfriend. And then he's saying, would even if that was true, would you actually, if I hurt you, would you come to me for that support? And of course that can never happen, can it? You know, but it's so deep, that line. I mean, it just moves me so much. And the fact that he can capture such a complex idea in one single line is really, it's genius, really is. And so you see, every time I create a painting now, I use this song as a kind of measurement of quality. So I was saying to my friends about this, you know. That, you know, I'm saying to my friends that, you see, this to me is what art is about. That, because, you know, I honestly don't think I'd ever would have seen this side of a relationship before. You know, I've had different girlfriends in my lifetime, and I've witnessed her being different with her girlfriends, but I don't think I would have seen it on this level that Prince points out. And it's because of this song that it awakened me to that side of things. And I think that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to awaken you to a new perspective on life that you didn't see before. And in doing so, it raises your quality of consciousness, let's say. And I honestly think that that's what art is meant to do. And on top of that, you know, this kind of, for me, proves that Prince himself is a true artist, is what I think an artist is. Because, you know, the fact that he even writes this song tells you that he's like really deep going. He looks at life, questions life, and sees life from different perspectives. So anyway, I was saying all this to everyone in the room, and God, it's so warm today, guys. Anyway, and they said, yeah, and one of them said, put it on again. So we put it on again, and I could see that they were listening to the song more closely this time. And I mean, and they agreed with me that the performance of Prince of that song was also like, you know, it was a work of art in itself, that, you know. And you can see he really throws himself into the song, you know. That's like, for me, Prince represents also what it is to be an artist. You know, it's, you know, he's not He's not motivated by like making a catchy tune pop song that's going to sell well. You know, he's not interested in, you know, that's not what motivates him. You know, what motivates him is like these little details of life. And if he sees these things, like this aspect of his relationship with his girlfriend, of her being different with her girlfriends than she is with him, you know, this side of a loving relationship, he sees this and it inspires him to create like an environment, a scenario in a song. And you see that for me, that's what art is meant to do. You create a scenario which can tell a story of a truth of reality in a new way. And Prince does this, you know, he's that's what motivates him. It's not fame or money. You know, money's the kind of a side thing to what he does. That's never the thing that he was driven by. And this is why I always say that for me, art is a form of communication about aspects of life and reality that are completely unique and new aspect of how we see things, and then we share them. You know, like Prince, he creates this environment of a song which then helps you see life in a different way. And by doing that, it helps us raise the quality of our consciousness. And I think that art, painting art, is meant to do that as well. So you see, the fact that Prince, even the fact he even wrote that song shows that what kind of a person he is. And when I heard that song, you know, I wanted to be that kind of artist. That's the kind of artist I wanted to be, you know, which is why I always say that art is not about selling. It's about having something to say that's worth telling. You know, it has value. The message has value because, and the value is that it lifts the quality of our consciousness and it adds to the quality of our everyday lives. And so ever since then, I use that song, like I was saying, as of a kind of a level of quality that I want my art to be. And anyway, it must have had an impact, that song that night on my friends, because about 2 weeks later, one of the friends who I shared the room with, we went for a beer after college, and he brought it up. He says, "You know, Arthur, that song, Prince's song, Girlfriend, I hope you don't mind, but when I've been on my own, I've been watching that video. I put the video on, I've been watching it, and I've come to the conclusion that you're right. You're really right. I didn't see it. It is an absolute masterpiece, that song." And I was quite lifted by that, because you know I saw this in the song, and by that he didn't see it immediately, but later it sunk in, didn't it? You know, he absorbed it, let's say. And I think sometimes art, in any form, whether it's music or painting, I think the person, the viewer, has to absorb it. You know, it's not simply a case of seeing it. You have to absorb it in a way, like a sponge, like a gentle sponge. You have to absorb the information, and then you become transformed in a small way. It's like steps, isn't it? So for me, that I use, like I say, I use this song, this performance of Prince and the song as the level of standard of quality of art for myself. And that's just for me. I don't say that every artist should see art this way, but that's my own standard. That's what I try to do. I try to create scenarios in which tells a different aspect on reality, upon life, that maybe, just maybe, that someone hasn't seen before, and it helps them see a different perspective on life and reality, and maybe it, raises the quality of their consciousness. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. It's like my perspective of what art is and what an artist is. And I just thought that this song and Prince kind of captures for me what art and what an artist should be. But that's just for me. Every artist has their own perspective. I just wanted to kind of, it was just a great example really of kind of my view of what motivates me to create art. And so I hope you got something out of it. Maybe it's got some thoughts going in your mind. And so I'll leave it there. And as usual, till next time, take care, give care, and be careful out there. And don't be strangers, and visit me again on this channel. See ya. Peace.